It's now time for Energy Insights, where you get an inside view and local perspectives of all the oil and gas progress going on in the Mid-Ohio Valley. This program is being brought to you by the Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association, and it can be heard every Saturday at 9 a.m. on local radio WMOA AM 1490 and ESPN radio WJAW FM 100.9 and AM 630. It's now time for the show. Here's Johnny Wharf, your local host.
Saturday Morning Radio, Johnny Wharf, proud to be joined by Matt Lupardus from HG Energy, and a chance to talk a little oil and gas and how it relates to us. Here we are, Matt, in 2019, and we creep up on this industry and how it's touching us here locally. Talk about first maybe globally, and then we can kind of hone in on how it hits us where our feet are.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting past year. One of the things that most people aren't aware of is, I think a lot of people are aware that, Saudi Arabia is a very large oil producer. I think a lot of people are also aware that Russia may be a large energy producer. But what folks may not realize is that for the first time in over 2 decades, the U.S. is now producing more petroleum products, more petroleum barrels per day than Saudi Arabia and Russia. So we have been behind them for 2 decades and importing a lot of oil and relying upon countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia who don't necessarily like us. So it is a very nice thing to have that production going up over the past few years, primarily due to the fields in West Texas, but also here locally in our Utica and Marcellus shales, we produce liquids here as well. So as a result of all those different shale plays, the U.S. is now the largest producer of petroleum products in the world.
Okay, so you narrowed it in a little bit from the global outlook and incorporating us and West Texas into the areas that in our country that are producing, and we're talking about production. So take it down to what it means in terms of pricing. So obviously if it's closer to us, I would think it would be more beneficial price-wise.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit a good point. What's in it for me? That's the most important thing here. What's in it for our listeners? Well, something that most folks don't realize is just how much gasoline we use in the U.S. Obviously, it's a lot, but we actually use 392 million gallons of gasoline a day in the U.S. And back in the times when oil was sitting at $100 a barrel, I'm sure everybody remembers paying $3.50, $4 a gallon, and that was quite painful. Now that we have developed so much production of our own, gas now hovers in the $2 to $2.50 range. Well, that's $1 to $1.50 per gallon of savings. Well, what does that mean to us? Well, let's just use $1. Let's just be conservative, use $1 a gallon of savings. Well, that's $392 million a day of savings to our country, which is $143 billion a year. So every year, $143 billion we save. In 7 years, that's $1 trillion. So that's a humongous benefit to us locally. It's money that we don't have to wait on the government to give us a tax return. And, that's the big talk these days. That is in our wallet and never leaves. So it stays in our bank accounts, and we save a huge amount of money as a result.
As it relates to when we hear the cost per barrel, how does that break out to the cost per, at the gas pumps? I think for listeners, and me included, that I don't know how to calculate that. It's
interesting. It used to be pretty connected. It's not quite as connected anymore, but when oil prices went from $70 a barrel here about a year ago down back to the 50s because we had so much production, there was about a 50 cent per gallon drop. When oil was $100 a barrel, twice the price it is now, it was about $1.50 a gallon more. It wasn't quite double, but it's almost a 1-to-1, but not quite. But any drop in that oil price definitely ends up being a drop in the gasoline at some point. So, all right.
As always, I'm smarter for having spent a few minutes with you. We appreciate your time and wish you the best with HG.
Absolutely, thank you. Great talking to you today.
Matt Lupardus is our guest here. Energy Insights on a Saturday morning. Until next week, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Energy Insights, brought to you by the Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association. Tune in every Saturday at 9 a.m. on WMOA and ESPN Radio WJAW as Johnny Wolf brings you your local and inside perspectives of the oil and gas progress going on in the Mid-Ohio Valley.